a major achievement for the Iranians and the axis of resistance. The fact that Trump, who initially spoke of capitulation and that unconditional surrender was, I think, one of the first things that he said after the war. He said that, I think, for both wars, the 12-day war and this war. And then he had to retreat, and ultimately he gave his 15-point plan, which Iran rejected. And the fact that he had to accept Iran's 10-point plan as the framework for negotiations, I think that is a huge achievement. And it is a failure of the empire. But that doesn't mean the war is over. And the Iranians are prepared for a restart of the war. But it will be very difficult for Trump to restart this war. And he has not been able to carry out an operation to steal Iran's enriched uranium, which Iran has every right to have. And in addition to that, he has not been able to take a single square meter of Iranian territory. Iran is in full control of the Strait of Hormuz, and people across the country in Iran have been on the streets rallying in support of the government, the state, the leaders, the armed forces. And the axis of resistance across the region have been active in hammering their adversaries. After 40 days, we've seen that they've failed in stopping Iran's missiles and drones. They've also been forced to concede that their operation to take the uranium has ended with failure. So none of their operations have succeeded. Even their so-called air superiority is unassured. Iran can dictate terms to the ships in the Persian Gulf region. And these Arab family dictatorships have paid a heavy price for their complicity in murdering so many Iranians. So I think it is a major failure. Doesn't mean, again, that this war is over, but this is a major step in the right direction. We're cautiously optimistic because all of our allies are a part of the ceasefire. That means Lebanon, and the Israeli regime continues to murder Lebanese citizens, and that basically means that Netanyahu and the Zionists don't want the normalization of trade in the Persian Gulf. They don't want oil and LNG and fertilizers to be exported. They are trying to ruin the potential for peace in the region as we speak. So we have to be cautious about the days ahead. Iran will not accept murdering its friends and allies and citizens in Palestine or in Lebanon. But obviously, there are celebrations because Trump was forced to make a major shift in policy. And the Iraqis have made enormous sacrifices in liberating their country from occupation and have achieved significant success. The Iranians, too, under constant airstrikes and carpet bombing. The people of Lebanon have achieved a great deal through their resilience and power, and they've shown that Hezbollah has not been diminished and it has not been weakened. Those who are saying that Hezbollah has been weakened is no longer a potent force. Today, Hezbollah is stronger than it's ever been before. It has shown the Israeli regime its strength, and it has shown the world its principled position in support of the Palestinian people and its attempt to bring about an end to the genocide in Gaza. So there's cause for celebration, but that doesn't mean, again, that this is over. We could have a renewal of hostilities tomorrow. It could be in a week from now. We are cautious. But the fact that Trump was forced to make this shift at a time when Iran controlled everything that it controlled 40 days ago is enormous. The Israeli regime will have to abide by the ceasefire in Lebanon. That's a part of the ceasefire, and it will not be allowed to do otherwise. Otherwise, Iran will make sure that the regime is punished. So that will not be tolerated by any means. Whether Netanyahu was consulted or not, it's not really clear to me. Obviously, Zionists, many of them, I'm sure, were consulted because Trump has surrounded himself with Israeli. So there's no doubt that they were deeply involved in the debates going on in the United States. But I think there are a couple of things that we have to keep in mind. One is that the Israeli regime is now loathed across the world and even in the West. Also, the United States has brought about a global economic crisis, and it will not remain untouched. It will affect it too. And I think that many in the United States and in the capital, at the end of the day, will prioritize their own fate over the demands of the likes of Netanyahu. That doesn't mean that the Zionist regime does not have huge influence. It has huge influence. Washington has been captured by the Zionist lobby and by the Israeli regime supporters. We know that from Joe Kent's resignation letter. He was a very high-ranking intelligence officer appointed by Trump himself, and he made that very clear admission. So they have huge influence. But at the end of the day, what Iran has been able to do to U.S. standing in the world is huge. And the Americans recognize that. The Americans needed this halt in hostilities. So perhaps one could say that the Zionist lobby in the United States did not have the upper hand in the decision-making process in the United States on this occasion, but that doesn't mean that it will remain this way. And that's why the Iranians are very cautious, because there's no doubt that the Israeli regime and the Zionists do not want this situation to continue. They will do anything that they can to disrupt the halt in hostilities. They will do anything they can to continue to force the global economy to continue to suffer. And ultimately, we achieved a great victory through the resilience of the Iranian people, the resilience of the Iranian armed forces, and the resilience of the axis of resistance. Hezbollah played a very important role. The resistance in Iraq played a very important role. Resistance in Yemen also played a very important role. But of course, the fact that people on the streets, whether in Iran or in Iraq or in Yemen, and of course in Lebanon, they were constantly being bombed, but they too were resilient. The people themselves were the ultimate force behind this victory, the resilience of the people, the resistance of the people. And remember, we all are paying this price simply because we are opposed to genocide. The Palestinian people are suffering, they're being massacred, and our guilt, our punishment is that we oppose this. But the Iranian armed forces played an enormous role for 40 days. They hammered the Israeli regime day and night. They hammered U.S. forces day and night. They hammered assets affiliated to the United States. It was unrelenting. And as I said, the Americans failed to take control of the Strait of Hormuz or to carry out an operation to steal Iran's enriched uranium. So they underestimated the Iranian people. They underestimated the Iranian armed forces. They underestimated the axis of resistance. Now I think they are just beginning to appreciate that the world has changed. And I think that the entire global majority and even people in the West should be celebrating this victory. Iran was fighting, and the axis of resistance has been fighting for humanity, for everyone. And the fight to prevent the extermination of the Palestinian people is a global fight. I think that no one is naive in Tehran about what the United States plans to do or is willing to do. But Iran will not accept a peace agreement ultimately unless these conditions are met. So our relationship with the United States has been what it is for the last 47 years. We've been punished and attacked and against the Soviet Union. We were opposed to their occupation of Afghanistan, but we're also opposed to U.S. supporting terrorism and extremism in Afghanistan. We supported the people of Cuba, and we continue to do so, the people of Venezuela, and of course, the people of Palestine, and so on. So that is our sin. We don't expect the United States to suddenly support the people across the global South. But this is a turning point. The United States messed around with the wrong country, and it failed. So whether we come to an agreement with the United States and they accept our terms or not, the important point right now is that the United States has been forced to put aside its proposals and accept our proposal as a framework. Again, we are not pretending that tomorrow Trump is going to say, yes, we accept everything that the Iranians said and we accept their demands. But this shift is huge. And the fact that the world has seen the extraordinary resilience of the Iranian people. So we'll have to see how things play out. But I think what has happened is that there has been a sea change. And the United States, Iran will no longer allow the United States to play the role that it did in the Persian Gulf. It will no longer allow Qatar and the Emirates and the Saudis and to behave as proxies for empire, slaughtering Iranians. These countries have to behave like normal countries. They can no longer have imperial ambitions with their tiny size. That's not going to be accepted anymore. And now they're going to be forced to accept this because Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz and their overlord failed to defeat Iran.